This episode is proudly sponsored by Starlight Strings of the Upstate, a premier performing group providing elegant live music for weddings, anniversaries, and corporate events across the Greenville, Spartanburg, Newberry, and Anderson areas. With over 30 years' experience, we bring grace, beauty, and polish to your most meaningful moments. And yes, I'm not just your host, Mama B, I'm your violist. To connect with me directly to book live music for your next special event, email me at sharrisburger@bellsouth.net. That's CHARIS burger, BURGER, at bellsouth.net or 864-238-2601. Hi, I'm Mama B,
And I'm Mama Juju.
and we are
Music Mamas on the Move.
Today, before we dive into our special interview, let's take a moment to introduce the woman who inspired it all, Nikki Lane. Originally from Greenville, South Carolina, Nikki is a trailblazing country artist known for her bold style, raw lyrics, and fearless fusion of classic country with rock and indie influences. After starting her career as a fashion designer in Los Angeles and New York, Nikki turned heartbreak into art, writing songs that are equally parts sassy and soulful, drawing inspiration from icons like Loretta Lynn and Merle Haggard. She's released 4 critically acclaimed albums, collaborated with artists like Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys, Lana Del Rey, and Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age, and built a loyal fan base with her signature sound and independent spirit. Nikki also owns Class Hillbilly, a vintage boutique in Nashville that reflects her unique sense of style. And today, we're honored to welcome someone who knows her best, her mother, Debbie Krull.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show,
Thank
Jimmy. We're so
you.
excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Not too many nerves going now, are we?
No.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. We're just so glad that you're here, and we kind of wanted to delve into a little bit of like some background. Like from the beginning, I'm a big believer in the universe and manifestation. I think a lot of that happens in my own personal life. But we had an opportunity to talk when I was in Denver for a little bit, and you shared with me a story about her birth announcement. So you brought it with you today.
I did.
And if you would, because we're videoing, so I would love for people to be able to see what I'm talking about. But it's a concert ticket. And that
Nice.
in itself just gave me chills when you shared that with me. Share a little bit about that birth certificate
So
or birth announcement, I should say.
she, of course, was my first daughter, and everything about, having a baby was new. So I was trying to plan ahead, and a friend had had a baby and shared with me where in Spartanburg she had had her announcements made. So she showed me a couple of ideas that she had had but didn't pursue, and one just stuck out with me, and it was a ticket to a show. And instead of row aisle seat, you had the baby's weight and length. And then, as far as a title, a production, the one that she showed me was A Star is Born. And I was crazy about that movie when it originally came out with Chris Christopherson and Barbara Streisand. And I thought, oh, that's just perfect. So fast forward October 17th, 1983, she's here. And so I had everything ready so that my mother in law could go and place the order. And she went and did that. We gave them out to, all your family, mailed it to the people that weren't local. And luckily, I held on to a good many of them over the years. So now every birthday, I have something to, post that people think is, already, oh, that's cute. Where'd you come up with that? It's like, it's her real birth announcement.
Right. And I just thought that was the neatest thing that, here you kept this and all these years later, she's a star.
Star. I mean, she sells tickets.
She sure does.
Right.
She sure does. And she's I really love watching her perform. You can tell she really loves what she does. And
does.
that's what's important.
She does. She's always had this huge desire, to connect with her fan base. And she has said before, which I don't think she would turn it down, that, she doesn't really care about arena shows because that would kind of pull her back from having that one-on-one with the fans. But she always heads out to her merch table and doesn't think twice, to do selfies and talk to the, smaller fan base, the little girls and little boys. So
That makes a big difference.
it really
For the
does.
fan, I mean, knowing, being around, going to concerts, we go to a lot of concerts, and just seeing that interaction.
It does.
It,
It's your best
mm-hmm,
marketing period, and hers
right.
is very sincere. It's not just a gimmick for her.
Well, and she's just done so many different things in addition to music. And I had the privilege of being able to be in Nashville last week, and I made a point to go by High Class Hillbilly
Hmm.
because every time I go up there, I didn't go. And I was talking to my friend Sheila Mitchell. She's Yellow Wolf's mom. And she was telling me that Wayne actually comes into the store.
He
And
does.
yes, and he's a big fan of High Class Hillbilly.
Hmm.
So that kind of endeared me to him a little bit more too. I mean, of course, I'm a big fan, but it was neat to see other people in the community, in the music community, support the store.
They do, and she gets the opportunity to, on different video shoots for other artists, to style them, with things that she carries in the store, and
Hmm.
it's kind of her thing. She
Which,
she doesn't know not how to do it.
well, I was going to say that's really nice because that's what she started out, was in fashion, right?
Right, right.
Yes. So
Yeah.
she gets to still do that.
She worked at Fred Siegel, Ron Herman when she first moved out to California. She worked in the denim bar of Ron Herman, and she had to sell $20,000 in blue jeans every 2 weeks.
That's all. Just
And I remember,
20,000.
and I remember thinking that's the
That's a lot.
craziest thing I've ever heard. And then from the time she started, every pay period that where it
Mhm.
was measured, she was sometimes as much as $10,000 above what her number was.
Wow.
Wonder what kind of price were the jeans? Any
On
idea?
on average, yes, because I was lucky enough to get gifted a couple of
Oh,
pair.
good.
On average, the blue jeans were between $300 and $400 a pair.
Okay. So then that goes a little bit more attainable compared to me thinking about Old Navy,
Right, and then you
$50.
had your star clientele that Paris Hilton pulls up and the whole parking lot's full, and she comes in and buys 5, 6 pairs of jeans. So there's a big chunk of your quota.
When did she go to LA? What year was that?
She moved out there the year she was 19. She was supposed to be moving into an apartment here in Greenville, and that fell through. And she was so devastated that the girl backed out. She said, "Mom, I'm moving to California." And I'm like, "Say what?" So I thought it'll go away. She's just heartbroken because this apartment and all this plans falling through. And that was like 1st of April, and then she picked a date out on the calendar, May 24th, and she pulled out of Fountain Inn, South Carolina on that day and never returned as far as to live.
Wow.
At 19.
At 19.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I graduated nursing school when I was 19, and they actually let me in the hospital helping save people's lives. So I'm proud of her for going.
Right?
Go, girl.
Yeah.
Well,
And look what great things you've done, right?
well,
So,
but
yeah.
we had an opportunity to talk about some of the interviews that she's had, and I was looking
Mhm.
for an interview with CBS Sunday Morning that is Loretta Lynn, and Nikki's in a good part of that production, but we've not been able to find that, or you haven't for a little bit. It's kind of a lost episode that you've been looking for a little while, but I did find the one from CBS Sunday Morning, Saturday edition.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great one, but she says something in there, and I thought, God love teachers. You guys make such a difference in this world, Cheris. I'm telling you this right now.
Well, thank you.
But she said that when she was, I guess, 10th grade,
Right.
high school social studies teacher, wrote on the board the first day of school, "Complacency kills." And that's really what was a trajectory, something that she kept and that she absorbed that day. And I was like, you know what? That is so powerful because complacency, I've said all along that that's what gets you into trouble.
Exactly. And
You're,
my granddaddy always told me, like, if he went to show you something new and you'd say, well, I can't. And he'd say, can't, never could. And you're like, what does that mean?
right.
And kind of going with the complacency. If you think can't, you
Well,
never
and
will.
she was. It's interesting that she kind of parlayed that into the fact that when the apartment fell through, she wasn't complacent just to say, okay, well that didn't work out, so I'll figure something out this here. She went, you know what, I'm not complacent with this life and what I have right here, and I'm going to do something about it. And I think that's really powerful
That's
in itself,
exactly what
Debbie.
she did. She had a friend that lived out there that was going to the Design Institute. And I said, what are you going to do out there? And she said, I'm going to sleep on Liz's couch and I'll get me a job. And if things don't work out in a year, I'll come back. But I might not come back here, Mom. I might do something different. I might come back somewhere like Nashville. It was just so like out of the blue, whatever.
Yeah.
So thinking about back, because she didn't start her music career until later.
Right.
So did you see hints when she was younger of that desire?
Well, she always had the vocal desire. Everything that came up in school, elementary, all the way through high school, any kind of chorus presentation, she was always in those.
Okay.
And very, comfortable singing, and especially if they added any kind of, skit work with it, as far as like, a character or something. And, but nothing like as far as a piece of musical equipment. She wasn't like into. I played piano. She wasn't into that. Never like saw a guitar and just instantly wanted to strum.
Right.
But anything vocal in school. Matter of fact, she in fourth grade, went through all the different auditions and made it to the singing Christmas tree. And then 2 years during that same time period, she did Spring Sing, which for this area was another way to showcase young people. So no, it's just I think the first indication that something was up was when she was living in Echo Park out in California. She lived above a coffee shop, and some people would get together, 2 or 3 nights a week and just jam. And all of a sudden, she's like, Mom, I'm going to get a guitar and I'm going to go downstairs and jam. And I'm like, good luck with that. And she, little by little, and people took the time to, show her chords and teach her, things about the guitar, the, shortcuts. And the next thing you know, she's not only playing, she's deciding that she likes to write. And fast forward, some influence from Barbara Orbison, who was Roy Orbison's wife.
Right.
She winds up with a record deal to do the first record, which is called Walk of Shame.
That's great.
And from there, it's just been like a snowball downhill.
And in Small World, the singing Christmas tree. I was in that for 5 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What years were you in it? Shares?
Let's see. My last year was 86.
Okay. So I looked. Her singing Christmas tree year was 93, and then she did the Spring Sing on 92 and 93. But that was a big deal around here.
And Virginia Aldrich.
And Miss Aldrich, yes.
She's definitely a big part of our history for the arts. She's
anything, yeah.
the director of the Fine Arts Center that first years that just had their 50th anniversary that I went to.
Good
so
for you.
yeah, so Virginia definitely a big part of our history in Greenville.
Right.
That's a neat thing though. Those are all really cool things.
And the Memorial Auditorium.
Oh my gosh.
That's where it was, right?
No, it was at the Peace Center.
Oh, you had it at the Peace Center.
We were at the Peace Center.
We were always at the Memorial Auditorium.
Yeah, she was at the first couple of years of the Peace Center, because I remember we lived in Simpsonville. I was a single mom, so I had to do all the running back and forth. And I can remember even back then, with it being brand new, it was hard to find a parking place.
So, because the Memorial Auditorium, well, at that time it had already been torn down. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, you would have. Yeah, I think So,
Okay.
yeah.
And you have a lot of musical experiences at the Memorial Auditorium.
I do. I have some really good, I won't call them childhood memories. I was younger, but
What kind
no.
of experiences that you can share with that?
So one of my friends worked for Daryl Floyd Catering,
Mm-hmm.
and they did all the catering for, backstage for events. And as a result, I would go with her to help her set up catering, and then we would get to hang out and be backstage for all the concerts. And
Who was your favorite? What was your favorite concert?
all right, Bob Seger,
Oh,
and he was there promoting his album Against the Wind. And this was a little more structured than anything Yvonne and I had been to. But now looking back, when I realized the dynamic to his musicians and the moving around that went on, I kind of understand why we got, scolded and put in a seat and told us to stay and not move. But we finished all the backstage catering stuff, and one of the guys like, okay, this is where you're going to sit. And he sat us up on a piece of equipment box, a big black box. We were right of the stage. We needed a little help to get up there because it was one of the bigger, probably a speaker box. And he said, don't move.
That's it.
He said, absolutely, whatever you do, don't move. So we sat there, and I don't know if it was the dynamic of not moving or just seeing something that was a little bit more of a production
Mm-hmm.
than an outright, jam and concert. But it was one of the best shows I had ever seen. And I had a 79 Camaro at the time, and I thought I had a really, bad stereo system, 8-track with a power booster. And so
Woo.
I couldn't get
Girl.
over. I know, I was big time. I couldn't get over how much his music sounded like what I blared in my car.
Uh-huh.
And then I think one of the key moments of his concert, you're watching the stage, and I can't remember the song, but there's a sax solo.
Is it Turn the Page? Where he starts out with the sax solo?
It may be, but the next thing you know, the guy's on the stage, and he winds up to his part of this, that particular song, and he's playing up in the dress circle, which if you knew anything about the auditorium, the dress circle had no access but to leave that, downstairs area and then go up several flights of stairs.
Right.
But he was on stage one minute, and the next minute, there he was in the middle of a crowd of people blaring
She's talking
that
about
solo.
the amazing alto Reed who passed away a few years ago. He was the saxophone player for Bob Seger. I'm an unofficial historian.
Oh,
yes,
So-
she is.
I have a weakness for the sax. If I could ever learn to play something, which I probably got plenty of air for that. But
Check out Candy Dulfer. You listen to Candy Dulfer at all?
yes,
Yes.
yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I love all the parts of a concert, the music and what. But I'm really appreciative. I think from my years of playing piano for the musicians.
All right.
And
So,
I want to ask one more question about
Sure, go
the
ahead.
auditorium. Okay, so Nikki mentions in one of her interviews that her first memories of a concert was Reba McEntire.
It was. My sister was a huge Reba fan, and so she asked if she bought tickets, did we want to go? And so I was like, sure. So we went to that particular concert, and she was, she's Nicole to me, and I'll have to give you the history to why we got to Nikki, but she was just mesmerized by it. It was, a full-on production because Reba, had like this, her first entry into is the song Little Rock, and she's walking down what looks like 50 steps, part of her setup. But we went to that, and she was kind of hooked at that point as far as wanting to go to shows, and maybe truly the inspiration for what, in the back of her mind wanted to put her up on that stage.
Right. Well, she's there.
She's
well, what's
there.
it like for you to watch your daughter performing at a concert?
Very out of body is probably the best way. Again, because we didn't. this wasn't a plan.
Right.
This wasn't like I'm going to move to California, and if, I can't find a job, I'm going to find a guitar and somebody's going to teach me how to play. And, it's like it wasn't a plan. So seeing her early on in the first, years when they would introduce her, it was just, I don't think your heart can pump any faster than that.
Yeah.
And then as you just fast forward, to the degree of, shows that she does now, with Chris Stapleton, her first time with him was out in Las Vegas.
Right.
And then
He and Morgan really do like her.
oh, they do.
They like
And
Nikki a lot.
they're really, really good people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think sometimes the fans really know what a person is like behind the scenes, but they're people.
Mm-hmm.
And some are just above and beyond, with their values as far as family and
Well, now, okay, so we're moving forward a little bit because in August, and of course it'll be on a show. She's going to be on tour with Grammy winner, I should say that, multi-Grammy winner, Sierra Farrell.
right.
She's going to be opening for Sierra at Red Rocks, and you and I are both going to be at that show
Gonna be
at the
there.
same
I
time.
know it's
And
gonna
I'm so excited.
I am beyond excited. That's been on my bucket list since she started singing, and I started watching how her genre of artists, so many of them wind up out there, and every management team she's had for like the last 10 years, I'm like, they'll always, be very cordial. Is there anything we can do for you? Yeah, can you get us to Red Rocks?
Well,
That's my
so
bucket list,
are you
too.
going to be are you going to be participating in that show? Have we decided
Hmm.
yet?
According to Wade, her fiance, he thinks it's the perfect time for her to pull me back up on stage. And I actually just put a bug in her ear that if we're going to do something, can we go back to something that we originally did? And I like to do that Jessie Coulter song. So
Now, yeah, and that's really how I knew who you were for Nikki opening for the Marcus King Band Family Reunion. It was 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. And it's 4:00 in the afternoon. There's hardly anybody out there. She's the opener. And I went because I wanted to see every act, but also because she was from Greenville. And all of a sudden, she asked you to come up on stage with her. And y'all sang a Jessie Coulter song. I don't even remember which one it was. And I thought to myself, we're going to be friends one day. And I thought to myself, Julie, you are so crazy. Why are you even?
Here
Why
we
are you
sit.
thinking that? But I knew that there was something special about her, and there was something special about you.
oh, thank you
And
so much.
it worked out a few weeks back. Things just worked out where I was able to walk up and say hello, and
Yes, I'm
yeah,
glad you did. I'm
yeah.
glad you did.
I mean, to
That
me,
universe, that manifestation that you
yes,
have.
going back to the manifestation of
There
things.
are no accidents.
So, Sheris, you have a question about new music coming up.
Right. So, wait, there's a new album.
There is. We don't
Okay.
typically, right now, there's not any definitive title, but
Okay.
she's working with Butch Walker, which she's been a fan of for 20 years or better. When she left to go to California, she left a Butch Walker poster on her door. We still have
Oh.
it. It's somewhere at Ashton's house because when I moved 4 years ago, I gave it to Ashton. It's like, I'm not going to be in charge of this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But she's working with Butch, and they are not only, peers, but he's become a dear friend to her. He's originally out of Cartersville, Georgia, so I think that southern
Right.
connection makes them work really good together. She's
Mhm.
really enjoyed this one. I can tell. The days in the studio are long and really hard,
Right.
but she seems to really be doing a good job on this one. I think they've tracked probably 6 or
Okay.
7 of the songs for sure. She sent me a link the other day to like 5, and again, no real title. She's continuing what she's been doing for the last 2 albums, just chronicling her life from past to present.
Right.
Using some chances with putting things on paper and then actually being able to vocalize them, to move forward, heal. Everybody seems to have some things from our past we need to work through and, move on. So she's using that. And I think this album's got a real nice mix of things that you could just drive down, on a road trip and listen to, or you might one or two pick out something that brings up a sad, I'm going to cry my eyeballs out moment. But then there's some stuff that makes you want to pull over the car and just have it, have a little boogie.
That's great. Well, and I think for a listener and us as fans that we forget that hard work that all of these musicians put into the studio, because we just get the final product.
Right.
And they make it, it sounds so easy.
It's
But,
work. I've been to a studio at the end where they started adding the backup vocals and stuff like that, and when they're getting down to the final mixes, and
Right.
stuff, and it's crazy. It's a whole nother language, when they talk to each other. But it's work. It is not by any means just maybe the words coming to you, that part to get to act, to have an actual song in your head, but to get it to the point where it can be produced and then played back.
right. It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Well, and we're gonna, and as part of this, we're gonna have a little compilation of songs that we're gonna play with this, so that people can understand and know who we're talking about if they're not familiar with Nikki. But what's your favorite song off Highway Queen?
Jackpot.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
as you can see, I'm wearing my blinged out. This particular shirt
Right.
was her Jackpot shirt that she sold as merch. And my other daughter, Ashton, and I decided before we went to Vegas, we got to bling ours out a little bit. So
Nice.
my little girl has dice, and
Right.
Ashton took hers up a notch for me. She went with the Swarovski crystals.
Of course.
I just went with some, Michael's bling.
Well, one last question. I know we're probably getting close. I mean, it's just funny, time flies, but we're probably getting close to the end of our time. Andre's like, yeah, our engineer, he loves us. But you're not just Nikki's mom.
Right.
You also have another daughter,
I do.
Ashton.
Ashton.
Correct? And she is married to Nick.
Nick.
That's correct. And you have a grandson who I just adore. I'm sorry. I am a huge fan of Cecil.
I think you're in a long line of people that
I
adore
know.
him.
So tell us what it's like to be grandmother to Cecil.
So I honestly can say that I think that's when your heart really starts to beat, is when you become a grandmother. I think it always was ticking, but there's something about, I think it's that statistic that I wasn't aware of, and Ashton was telling me about the fact that women are born with all the eggs they're going to have and blah, blah. And then, like, when I had Ashton, like, Cecil's a part of me.
Right.
You have to look it up. It's absolutely mesmerizing. But he's named after my dad, who my dad was a huge part of my girls' lives, especially me being a single mom. He missed no performance, no anything that was, happening during school. He was always there. And I'm just about making memories with Cecil.
Well, he is adorable. When we were on the phone and he asked you, did you recycle? Y'all, he's 4. He is an old soul. He's the oldest 4-year-old I know.
He was putting a bag away, and he was like, baby, do I throw this in the trash or do you recycle?
So too funny. But we just really appreciate you being here today, spending some time with us,
Well, I
talking
appreciate
about
you
your
having me.
amazing daughter. And we have a new friend in you, and we're so excited about that.
We're going to do some music together.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Got lots
Now
of places
you
to
have
go.
you have your own fan base, right?
I kind of do.
Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram,
Okay.
and unfortunately, a couple years ago, I changed my Instagram to where you have to request me. I found out that being somebody's mother, somebody that had a name, I was attracting all kinds of
Right.
stuff. So it was like I had to get rid of that, but I have no reason not to accept one. But I'm listed up under there as Frady Cat 2
Okay.
and TOO. But and My profile says I'm the proud mother of Nikki Lane and Ashton Lee.
There you go.
That's
All right, you
fabulous.
guys. Well, we really appreciate you coming out today, Debbie, and spending some time with us. And we'll be on the road soon and checking out places. So we'd love to have you come with us too.
Most definitely.
Yeah, because you're local and you could go with us.
That's right.
Yes.
You just
Check
tell
out-
me when. I'll be there.
Okay.
We have a group of friends who were music mamas, so they like to go and do some stuff like that. So it'll be a lot of fun. So we'll
Sounds
be
great.
seeing you soon.
Sounds great.
All right,
Thank you.
guys, have a good one.
Today's sponsor, Shop Sew Sisters. Need a meaningful gift or a way to preserve your favorite memories? Let Shop Sew Sisters create something special for you today. I specialize in custom t-shirt quilts, perfect for graduations, birthdays, or just because. Summer's the perfect time to start your quilt project, and I've got space on my sewing table. Send me a message on Instagram at Shop Sew Sisters or email sharisburger@bellsouth.net. That's CHARIS, burger, like a hamburger, BURGER, at bellsouth.net. And let us create something special for you today.